Grounded Guide, How to Craft All the Basic Tools and Weapons, Windows Central. Like every good survival game, Grounded has an extensive arsenal of weapons and tools to choose from to tackle the many threats facing players in its oversized backyard world. This list can only grow from here. As well, with the game currently in early access and game preview. Of course, you'll have to start somewhere in your journey. And that means knowing how to equip yourself with Grounded's most basic tools and weapons. Here's what you need to know. Obsidian Entertainment makes its exclusive debut on Xbox One and PC with Grounded. A unique survival experience that literally makes all of your problems much bigger. Join your friends as you're shrunk down to the size of an ant and are forced to survive in a dangerous backyard. In Grounded, there are several categories of tools and weapons. And there are different levels within those categories. For example, the basic pebbled hammer can be upgraded to an insect hammer, before culminating in the devastatingly powerful mint mallet. From what we've seen, there are currently 3 levels to your gear, with more possibly being added in the future. As far as categories are concerned, we know of axes, hammers, spears, repair tools, bows, torches, and shovels. Not all of these categories will have multiple levels of gear. And this isn't necessarily indicative of how many kinds of tools and weapons exist in the game. However, these are the ones pretty much of which any player will want to be aware. To get the most out of their suburban adventures. Out of all of these, you'll want to ensure you have a good axe, hammer, and then something with which to protect yourself. This setup will help you collect the essential resources you need to get to the next stage of crafting. Crafting can get pretty hectic in Grounded, with some of the later gear and utilities requiring rare resources, multiple layers of crafting, and more. The basic tools and weapons are far easier, usually only needing the most common resources, and at most, one additional crafted ingredient. Once you've collected the necessary ingredients, this usually unlocks the recipe for the gear automatically. Still, it's always a good idea to analyze any new resources you acquire in a lab, as this nets you additional recipes to use in the future. You can do up to 3 a day at any lab, so make sure to take advantage of this. Ingredients or resources for a crafting recipe that require their own crafting. Fortunately, as far as this list of basic tools and weapons is concerned, there's really only one additional step for most of the recipes: woven fiber. Woven fiber. This crucial ingredient is necessary for almost every tool and weapon crafting recipe, so it's essential to have plenty of it. Fortunately, woven fiber is also extremely easy to procure, as the only resource necessary is plant fiber, or 3 to be precise. And plant fiber can be found in large quantities scattered across the ground in blooming plant sprouts. By cutting down the stalks of grass, and more. Even better, woven fiber can be crafted inside the crafting screen for recipes it's a part of, so you don't have to switch back and forth to get the ingredients you need. Tools are necessary pieces of equipment that allow players to harvest resources they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. Like cutting down blades of grass for building materials or breaking apart boulders for rare crafting resources. Some of them also make very effective weapons. As well. Pebbled axe. This tool is the first in the axe category and opens up a ton of possibilities, like being able to cut down grass, weeds, and dandelions. There are a lot of uses for the axe, and it's not a terrible weapon in a pinch. To craft a pebbled axe, you'll need 3 sprigs, 2 pebbles, and 1 woven fiber. Sprigs are stalk-like plants that don't quite stand as high as a player, and they're widespread in the grasslands. Pebbles can be found pretty much anywhere lying on the ground or can be harvested by breaking boulders. Pebbled hammer. Alongside the pebbled axe, the first hammer is equally crucial for beginning players, as it allows you to harvest important resources like pebbles from boulders, quartzite, sap, and more. Upgraded hammers can be used to get one of the most powerful tools, weapons in the game. And the hammer is an effective weapon with its stunning capability. To craft a pebbled hammer, you'll need 3 sprigs, 4 pebbles, and 1 woven fiber. It's very similar to the pebbled axe, but requires twice as many pebbles. Torch. It might be necessary for you to explore darker places in the map, especially if you're on the search for mites, an important resource for some recipes. So having a torch on you is always handy. Torches will light the surrounding area, as torches do, and can be held in your offhand, leaving your main hand free to carry a weapon or tool. To craft a torch, you'll need 2 sprigs, 1 sap, 2 woven fiber, and 3 dry grass chunks. Sprigs and woven fiber you're familiar with. But the other 2 are new on this list. Sap can be found usually clinging to logs, branches, or roots, and can also be harvested on the oak tree with a hammer. Dry grass chunks are gained from cutting down dry grass with an axe. Repair tool. This tool can be used to repair damaged utilities or workbenches, making it useful for keeping your base in perfect condition after a bug attack. Not great as a weapon, but awesome to have when you need it. To craft a repair tool, you'll need 3 woven fiber, 2 sprigs, and 1 quartzite. The quartzite can be harvested from quartzite boulders, usually found underground. You'll need a pebbled hammer to do the trick. Acorn shovel. The last tool on this list is probably the least useful overall. But shovels are still awesome to have to increase the number of food sources to which you have access. Using a shovel, players can dig up grubs from the ground. To craft the acorn shovel, you'll need 2 sprigs, 1 woven fiber, and 1 acorn shell. You can find acorns at the base of the oak tree and can break them open with a hammer to find an assortment of crafting resources, as well as some snacks. Pebbled spear. If you need a weapon with which to defend yourself early on in the game, you can't go wrong with the spear. This is the first weapon you'll be able to craft and is a decent companion to have. It has long reach and can be thrown in a pinch for extra damage. But it won't stun your opponents and certainly isn't the most damaging weapon. To craft a spear, you'll need 2 sprigs, 3 plant fiber, and 1 pebbled. Unlike most of the other recipes in this guide, the spear does not require woven fiber, instead calling for the even more basic plant fiber. Spiky sprig. This is a fantastic beginning weapon and is worth the trade-off in range and throwability from the spear for its increased damage and stunning capabilities. However, the spiky sprig does require a resource that isn't immediately available to the player in the starting area. To craft a spiky sprig, you'll need 3 sprigs, 5 thistle needles, and 2 woven fiber. Thistle needles need to be harvested from a thistle plant by being knocked down with a hammer. Thistle plants like being near water, and there's a great area right next to the oak tree where you can find them. Watch out for spiders, though. Sprig bow. What survivalist would be complete without their trusty bow? The sprig bow is a decent ranged weapon in Grounded, but requires extra crafting to make it functional, as you need the weapon and the ammunition to supply it. To craft a sprig bow, you'll need 3 sprigs, 4 gnat fuzz, and 2 woven fiber. The gnat fuzz can be harvested from gnats, which are annoying, weak bugs that like hanging out near water. Basic weapons are enough to take down a gnat, and they're not very dangerous, just irritating. Arrow. To use your newly crafted sprig bow, you'll need some arrows as well. These are the handy projectiles launched from every bow, and form the basis for upgraded arrows you can unlock later on as well. To craft arrows, you'll need 2 mite fuzz and 5 thistle needles. Thistle needles need to be knocked from a thistle plant, as mentioned above, but mite fuzz can only be harvested from, you guessed it, mites. Mites like staying underground, and one of the earliest missions in the game gives you lots of mites to kill. So you should have a decent stockpile early on. Use your arrows wisely, however, as they're not cheap to replace. The Financial Times reports that as part of negotiations, Microsoft is now inquiring whether it can buy all of TikTok, instead of just the business in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. This new plan would include India and Europe, and excluding China. Good gaming mice are often expensive, but that's not the case with a UKE-wise Scarab gaming mouse. Here's why we love it, and why we think you should pick one up. Need even more Surface Duo in your life? Check out the latest Android Central podcast, in which Daniel Rubino and Daniel Batter, double the Dans, discuss Surface Duo, Microsoft's Samsung love affair, and Project xCloud. You have a lot of options when it comes to gaming laptops for playing PUBG. Luckily, this game can run on a lot of different machines. Here are our picks for the best laptops for PUBG. No spam. We promise. You can unsubscribe at any time and we'll never share your details without your permission. Text source: windowcentral.com.